Hi Herb, how's it going?
Doing good.
All right, so yeah, welcome back. It's been some time since we kind of chatted, but I wanted to kind of ask you about some questions, and I think particularly since you've been working with that Biardo for a while, just maybe a little bit about how you clean the machine, and just we could talk a little bit about tools, and actually something I've been reading a lot about lately is the supply chain disruption, and that seems to be an issue that a lot of people are talking about in shops and stuff because you know uh, you're trying to order product, there's not enough product in, and then prices are going to go up, because number one, shipping prices are going up. There's been reduction of access to materials and inventory, and so there's a shortage of that, right? That along with possibly stocking up just so that you don't run out, because I also understand, I hear that possibly natural gut prices are going to jump about 12%, and so that means that maybe now if you can get that gut, stock up a little bit, I mean 12% above what Babolat costs right now is pretty hefty. And so how are we going to get compensated for that? I mean, what needs to change as far as pricing and stuff to the end user, the customer, because they're maybe assuming, oh yeah, well I'm paying such and such for this price now, and so there's not really that, a lot of that information is maybe not come down to the players, and
Mhm.
so how do we account for that?
Yeah, I don't know, but I mean, kind of what you're talking about. I've noticed like a lot of the string has gone up, and I'm going to say right now on the average, I'm probably paying 10% more than I was just a few months ago. But some of them, like the Wilson NXT, it's gone up I think 20%. So I mean, I was getting it for 12.45 a set, and now it's 16 something a set, so whatever that is.
Yeah, if you were getting it for 12, that was a good price. Yeah. Oh yeah, that's almost, if you're looking at paying 16 something, that's not much below what almost retail minus 10% is.
Yeah.
I mean, you're getting close to that price. I mean, I'm sure the retail prices are going to be going up as well. I mean, I
Yeah,
haven't
because
really
it
seen
went
the
from
prices.
1995 to 22.
Oh, so that was recent, because I've been just watching recently, and I know that, yeah, a lot of those prices are, the online retailers are selling it for 22, and that got me thinking too that um, now's the time to look for those small opportunities, right? What about some of those smaller companies, right, that don't have a lot of volume? They might have some stock, so you might be getting more creative in finding the strings to complement what you have, with some of the small manufacturers. Because I'm thinking like, okay, so if you spend almost $300 on a reel right now at today's prices, if you spend almost $300 on a reel of Luxilon Alu Power rough, or Alu Power just in general, right? I mean, it's a little bit cheaper than that if you're buying wholesale, but or you buy a set, or you buy a reel of polyester, um, from a German manufacturer, over in Germany, and you can buy a reel of 200 meters for $59, right? That's about, so you're paying a premium of about 8 times for that Luxilon. So, I always ask the question, like, how much of that is really marketing costs and how much of it is really the quality? I mean, how is Luxilon really 8 times better than a quality string, German made string? They have good technologies. Um, so I sometimes look at that and go, well, you know, is it maybe worth looking at some of those brands?
Yeah, I lost you on the feed there for a little bit, but yeah, I mean, if you get into the smaller distributors, I don't know if we throw names out or anything, but like Diadem, I know they're
Yeah,
stocked up.
yeah, go
So
ahead.
he just called me yesterday asking me if I needed to place an order because he's running a special right now. So I'm probably going to order 4 reels of some of the diadem strings.
So you go directly through you go directly to Diadem.
Yeah, and that all started last year. They did not have a rep here in the state of Texas, and they had a brand new guy. His name was Corbin, who came to Texas, and we actually his first event in Texas. I mean, he moved here, and the day he was moving here, he came to our event, and we had a money UTR, $10,000 UTR event that we held, and he set up, and we got him introduced into the state of Texas. So
Nice.
ever since then, he's everybody around here, I think, probably has an account with him because
Yeah, it's whoever's knocking on the door. That's who you're going to go with a lot of times, right?
yeah, I know we had this time last year we had 0 diadem rackets around here, and I probably string 30, 40 of them a year now, and it's all the individual coaches at all the clubs selling them.
Yeah, I saw on their website, you know, they've got a line of rackets and stuff that, you know, it's not just string.
Yeah, they got rackets, bags, balls, ball carts, and a little bit of everything, grips.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a couple small companies in Europe that I've contacted, and they're actually sending me some sample strings for free. So,
yeah,
you know, I'm gonna try that out, you know, because some of you'd be surprised. You'd go, well, you know what, I'm not going to be able to buy any string from a company that's over in Croatia because of the cost of shipping. But you know what? DHL shipping to the US is sometimes cheaper than going to Tennis Warehouse and paying $30 for priority shipping. For some reason, DHL, you know, is pretty cost effective.
Yeah, and you know, and I'm not going to knock Tennis Warehouse, but
yeah, no,
sure. I can place an order on Monday through Tennis Warehouse, and they'll tell you get free 2-day shipping, which you do, but it might take them 4 or 5 days before they ship it.
Mm-hmm.
And so if I order on a Monday, I'm lucky if I have the order the next Monday or Tuesday. I can go through that WD strings on a Monday, and I usually have it on either Friday or Saturday.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, don't discount, you know, or don't, you know, discredit any of those offline, you know, offshore companies, because there's some quality out there in, you know, I kind of look to some of the European, you know, small companies that sell string, and sometimes they run specials too on their website. You know, their websites don't have a whole lot of product. You know, they might just be a lot of the, you know, they'll have some maybe 5 or 6 or maybe a dozen different offerings of string, you know, and sets and reels. But sometimes they run specials, and sometimes even to the US shipping is minimal. Or you know, I think it's worth trying, especially if you can get it at maybe a quarter of the cost of some of the other premium. You know, look at something that's similar to what you want, you know, or find something that's similar to what, you know, you're playing with, or that you are looking to buy, and then just try out one of these. You know, I'd like to do some tests on those. You know, maybe just string a couple up. You know, one with Lou Power, and then one with, you know, one of these other polys that I've been looking at.
Yeah,
and then
Kirschbaum has one that's real similar to a Lou Power. I can't remember what it is off the top of my head, but Kirschbaum has one.
Yeah, and even Kirschbaum is probably a little bit more cost effective.
Yeah, and people are out looking for alternatives like laser fiber. They're another good alternative. You know, they're looking for people to set up accounts and stuff.
Oh, are they?
Yeah.
Yeah, they've been in, and laser fiber's been around a long time.
Yeah, well, they were around a long time, then they shut down, and some new guys bought them out and reopened it. The way
I'll look at laser fiber. Yeah, I should make a list of all these small companies I'm finding, and then that way I have that, because I think another company, you know, Velocity, is also. I mean, they're really small, right? But they just had an ad in the last US RSA magazine, so they're coming back, and they're the ones that have that colored string. You know, all the rainbow colored string with all the colors, right? So I think they're
popular with little girls.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's, I know, colorful, kind of cool to, yeah. So that's coming back, but yeah. So I think it's going to be. I think we should all be expecting to pay a lot more, probably over the next 6 months or so, for.
Yeah, I would think people ought to expect 10 or 15% more.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, ultimately, is that going to trickle down to our labor costs? Probably not, right?
I'll just increase my string cost to match whatever
Yeah,
retail is. That's all I'm going to
yeah, that probably seems to be, probably the way to approach it because, um, you know, because yeah, I mean, I think if everybody makes a move on the labor and goes up in whatever region you're at, then it works out efficiently. But sometimes that's hard, right? Especially
Yeah.
if you're already charging a good premium and you're of course offering other services, um, maybe more customizing. That's maybe an area that to expand in. Maybe replacing pallets on the racket, and matching rackets and stuff like that. Do you ever get asked a lot about that?
No. I've had a few people over the years want me to increase their grip, so I just use the little heat sleeves, but
Right.
that's about it. But there,
Okay.
and I guess that's one of those things people got to know their market. There's very little customization that I've ever witnessed in my area. I mean, some of the college players will do
Yeah.
it here and there, and most of them they'll actually order rackets that are already balanced. But every once in a while they'll bring them to me and have me do it. But for the most part, yeah, most people around here they don't. Most people they'll have two, three rackets, none of them are the same racket.
Yeah. I
They,
mean, they're off. Yeah. I mean, they're completely off, and the problem is it's getting worse. I mean,
yeah,
you can pick up four rackets and of the exact same one on the wall, and you could have it could be off by such and such grams, and it's completely different, right?
yeah,
And so trying to match two rackets, is especially if you're paying $200+ a frame, you'd like to have the same thing. And
hmm,
the problem is a lot of them are coming out of the same factories, so they're really, there's not as much quality control anymore. There's I think maybe one or two rackets from Head that are still maybe made in Austria. I don't know. Most of them aren't anymore. And then there's Yonex. Some of their premium frames are made in Japan, and so those have better quality control. I think Technifiber, I think, has a little bit of control over some of their rackets.
yeah.
Um, I hear some good things about. I haven't really played with Technifiber ever, really, but I hear that they have some decent. I was watching a video on their string factory and how they make string and stuff, and um,
We
but
get a lot of. Well, I'm not going to say a lot. We have a few players. I played with Technifiber for a few years, but we have some of the college players that will come through here from like Eastern Europe that play Technifiber.
yeah, yeah, because it is more of a European flair, and I think at that college level, that's usually where a lot of those smaller manufacturers, that's their target market, right?
Hmm.
The
Well,
younger club
it's not
player.
necessarily the college market. It's they try to hit the juniors before they come to
Yeah, the
college.
juniors,
So
right?
it's not like Solinco. They're real big on it. They sponsor a crap ton of
Yeah,
juniors, and when they
yeah.
come to college,
I see your green, your lime Solinco in the corner there, right? That's
yeah,
Solinco. Yeah, that's their trade. That works out well for them because now anytime you see that lime green, even though it could be another brand, because there's a few other companies that make that color string,
yep,
but it's pretty much going to be
be Solinco. Yeah.
Solinco.
The
Uh,
hyper, and you can say that, but I've got a Wilson Sensation that's the same color.
oh, really?
Yeah,
Do you find that it plays the same as the the uh,
I think it's a little softer.
the regular
Yeah, I think
the
it's a little bit
regular
softer.
sensation?
I don't know. I mean, that just might be in my head, but I think it's softer.
Okay, because I always stray away from colored strings if you can buy it in a natural, just
Well,
because
yeah, and
that
that's
extra
what I do.
paint. Yeah,
That,
but
but and kind of like talking about the supply shortages. So I got the green because that's the only color I could get it in, and I just, always your little show here, you talk about what do we get in string wise. So I just got
yeah.
in a reel of a Sensation and some NXT that I've been waiting on for like 2 months.
Oh, nice.
It
Yeah,
just got it back in stock.
yeah. I what did I get? Actually, all that stuff came in, so I got my calibrator for
Mhm.
calibrator so I can check the calibration of my machine. And so it's an electronic calibrator, right? I think you've got the same one. And so this one is actually made by Wise, you know, the ones that make the tennis head,
Yeah.
the Wise tennis head that you can, the mechanism that you can turn your drop weight or your crank machine into a quality constant pull machine. And so they're the makers of this calibration tool. And really, if you're going to be calibrating, or if you're going to be checking your calibration on a constant pull electronic machine, I think it's important to have an electronic
Yeah, I
calibrator.
agree.
That makes sense, right? Because I know Gamma makes the one that
That little
basically
spring.
it just comes out kind of like, it reminds me of the car tire air tool that you use when you go check the air on your tires, right? It pops out kind of, and these kind of pop out and then tell you what the poundage is, you know. But if you have an accurate machine, you want a gauge that can read accuracy as well. So you got to get something like this, and you know, it's a decent machine.
Yeah, make sure you read your instructions. I've found over the years a lot of
Yeah,
people.
I never read it. I never read instructions, so it's
Okay.
good.
But yeah, you turn it on, you hook it up and everything. Once you pull it into the tension head, you have to make sure you hit the little on off again so it'll reset. A lot of people don't do that. I've learned.
Oh,
People, they won't do that. You know, they'll just pull it up there and it'll pull like 0.1, 0.2 pounds on there.
right.
You have to reset it to 0, or if you don't, it's going to be off that 0.1 or 0.2.
Gotcha. And I know that that machine also turns off by itself after a few seconds. But yeah, I made that mistake on this machine, you know, on my little mini STT, you know, to check the you know, gives me a reference tension when I put it on the racket after I've strung it. And you have to read the instructions to this thing, because you don't know what buttons to push, because you have to push like 2 of the buttons at one time for a certain amount of time to get, you know, some of the adjustments made. And I was trying to figure it out without the instructions, and it just wasn't happening. So I had to read the instructions with that. I'm still working on that. But there's, yeah, sometimes you really need to read the instructions. But you know, the Biardo, they've got pretty much everything online, right? So for all that, and for checking the calibration, and you know, that's important. So yeah, I've had some good success with that already. I enjoy that machine.
Yeah, that's a good machine. Not, and probably when you unpacked it, you know, you had the little sheet, and it wasn't the instruction. I sent you the instruction booklet, but it has the sheet that says go to the website.
Yeah, I thought I was getting the instructions, but they just gave you that piece of paper.
But that website, you know, I've had my machine going on 7 years, 8 years now, and that website's never worked, ever.
Really?
But on YouTube, they have a series of videos.
Oh yeah. You know, I found this.
Yeah.
I found the same thing. Yeah, I tried to go on there, and for some reason it wasn't active or something. And I thought, oh, okay, maybe. But yeah, oh, so you had the same issue back then.
When I first got it, I called them up and asked them. I was like, "Hey, your website's not working." They said, "Yeah, that hadn't been up since like 2012 or something like that."
No, so that was initially they put it up initially, and then just didn't.
Yeah, and they took it down. Then they just did the YouTube videos,
and then they just didn't maintain. So let's see. I had something else written down here as far as, you know, when you look at the Racket Industry magazine and you look at what's in there, I've noticed that there's an increase in pickleball marketing and promotion and so forth. And it seems like, you know, here, like as an example, there will be 6 courts. You know, I live over here in Maui, and so we don't even have a lot of tennis courts, right? I mean, there are some, but it's kind of like you can make a lot more money with that piece of property than having tennis courts on it, unfortunately. And so there's 6 courts like that are public courts that are maintained by the city, and they've converted to, you know, they're not willing to resurface the courts that need to be resurfaced, but they were willing to take 2 of the courts and put in poles and completely modify them for pickleball courts.
Yeah, saying they did the same thing here. We have a city-run court that has 16 courts, and they took 4 of them.
Yeah, so that kind of tells you. And if you go there on an early morning on the weekends, they are full of pickleball, and only, you know, and I can actually get on the tennis court because everybody, I mean, a lot of people have switched, because, you know, it is an easier you don't have to have the skill you do in tennis to have a rally. You can get on a pickleball court, and probably within a couple lessons, you can at least hit the ball back and forth.
Yeah.
I haven't had any experience with pickleball, but we got some rackets for Christmas as a family, and we're going to start playing pickleball.
Yeah. It's fun. Me and my wife have played it. It's really good for us, like older crippled people, because we don't have to move around as much.
Oh yeah, totally.
That's why you catch a lot of older people doing it. But it's really fun. It's easy to do. But yeah, it'll wear you out though.
Yeah. So, and I mean, because if you come from another racket sport, it should be a little bit easier, what they say, right? Because you have the same type of, I don't know if you use top spin like you do, if it's more like
ping pong. You use top spin, side spin, back spin, you do all that.
Yeah, and I don't know if ultimately it might mess up your tennis game, because you're going to have some strokes that maybe you're going to cross over into, and then, but if you played for tennis long enough, you probably shouldn't. I would think you have memory for that you're not going to muscle memory.
And again, like I've said before, I'm not a very good player, but what me and my wife got out of pickleball is our net game actually got a lot better.
Oh.
Because it's so fast, it's all hand-eye and it's real fast.
Right.
And then you go back on the tennis court, you got a volley coming at you. It's not quite as fast, but you still got the hand-eye. So our net game improved quite a bit.
Yeah, so I'm wondering how that's affecting the tennis market. I mean, if you look at the Sports Industry magazine, which follows that throughout the year, tennis sales, ball sales is usually a big indicator of how the tennis market is doing, and then also the specialty shops and everything. You can't really go off of that as compared to last year, because a lot of the things were closed last year, and sure enough, everything's pretty much doubled again. Mm-hmm. So but you can't really see if that's growth. It's harder to see if there's really growth in the market, because it's making up for a lot of lost time, right? And so it's hard to see if the tennis market is really growing exponentially or not. Right. But I would think that there's only so much time, and are some of the early entry recreational players moving over to pickleball and giving up on tennis.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of it.
Yeah, so that might ultimately affect, because it's kind of hard to string a pickleball racket, huh?
Yeah. They can cost just as much as a tennis racket.
Yeah, they cost as much as a racket, but hey, you don't have to string it. So There you go. But you can put grips on them. And I noticed a lot of sports shops now, they sell, they've kind of expanded into to pickleball as well.
Yeah, all of them around here, all the clubs so we have 3 country clubs, and one of them really doesn't have much of a tennis program, but the others do. Both of them, they have dedicated courts to pickleball. They carry all pickleball stuff. In fact, one of them, the one that we belong to, they don't sell any tennis stuff in the club, but they sell pickleball stuff.
Yeah, so everybody wants a piece of that market, huh?
Yeah.
It's kind of So I just thought that was kind of interesting that I saw that surgence of pickleball things, and but yeah, it seems like I'll definitely be trying it during the holidays and stuff, and so I'll let you know how that's going. But I think it is
the only hard part is scoring.
What's that?
The only hard part in pickleball is just learning how to score.
Yeah, I was listening. I was listening on the other court, and I couldn't quite figure out exactly how that scoring was going. So, let's see what else we talked about. You got a few things, and I talked about my calibration tool. I guess we've already been going about 23 minutes, so time just really flies by. But what about? I guess lastly, do you have any tips? Like, I always want to leave with some good stringing tips, something that somebody could take away with and use. So.
Well, I don't know. A question that gets asked to me a lot is using a setting off hole. And people want to know, do you have to hit every single hole? And no, you don't.
Talking about?
Yep. But you're going in there straightening strings out, and number one question I get, do you have to hit every hole? And no, you don't. Just hit like the top, the middle, the bottom, middle, straighten the whole string out.
Yeah. And along that's good. Let's stick to that. I recently read somebody was questioning, because I've used one of those for 20 years. I mean, any tournament that you string at, everybody has one. Everybody uses one on every racket. I mean, obviously, while you're stringing the crosses, you are straightening each one as you do. But there's a minute, it's off by just a minute,
sometimes, yeah.
And so with this tool, it will, it helps you bring them all back evenly, because you just learn how to, once you've used it enough on enough rackets, you kind of learn how the feel is and how to do it, because players at a competitive level, they want the strings completely straight.
Yep.
I mean they can tell, and that's what they look at as for a quality job sometimes. And so what somebody brought up was like, well, if you use this kind of a tool after you've strung a racket, is it going to change the tension at all? Is it going to basically lessen the playability of the frame, because now you've been putting impact on the strings to some degree, not very much, but you've been putting it. So would the tension change? I haven't tested it yet.
My opinion, I would say yes, but it'll be so minute, it'd be unnoticeable. I mean, because you're going to straighten out strings just a little bit, so you're talking maybe what, 1% change in tension, maybe.
Yeah, because you're hitting a lot of the strings.
Yeah, and then even with the impact, you're still talking probably less than 1% that you're going to change those strings.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to test
the string. You're just kind of tapping and pushing them over.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to test that, but I'd have to do it with the racket off the machine, because that works off of a vibration, right? So I'd have to have it off the machine, and then straightening it off the machine is a little bit hard. Well, I could put it back on the machine and then try it and see if it changes the tension at all. Yeah, I might do that.
Yeah.
Just to see. I doubt it, but it's worth exploring, just for my own inquisitiveness, I guess.
Yeah, I'd say it's so minute, nobody'd ever know.
Yeah, and because I've seen some people like leave the strings completely where they're at, and they're like this, right?
Yeah,
and then at the end they straighten them, but by that time you've lost so much tension, because once you pull those strings where they're supposed to go, that tension is just going to be loose, distributed throughout some of the, a few of the strings.
I tried to explain that to a guy one time, but that's how he was doing it. He's like, well, it's a constant pull machine. But I was like, yeah, but you've got about an inch more string in that loop than you do in a straight string. So he just never did get it. But yeah, I mean, just if you leave a big smiley face and try to straighten that out, you got to be losing close to 10% right there.
Yeah. Okay. Right. I have two questions for you. Okay. I know we were going to end, but now I have two more questions. See, that's why we keep going.
Yeah.
It keeps going. Okay, so number one is on a stringy machine that has the clamps like on the Biardo, right? Where they're quick release, where they are designed so that you can take the clamp and release it from the strings, drop it down gently, right? You don't want to slam them down, but you bring it down and it releases the base, so that way you can move the clamp to the next space and use one hand. Now, there are some stringers who feel that you should, when you're releasing, that you should release the base first and then the clamp that's on the string. My thinking behind that is the reason why you would do that is because with machines that don't have curved rails, you sometimes end up being in a tight spot when you are grabbing a string that's on the outer areas. And so it's actually putting pressure on your clamp.
Right.
So if you were to release at the top, you might rub the string on your clamp, and you could possibly pinch it or damage the string. So by releasing the bottom, it will then move the base underneath of the string so that you can drop it down without having that pressure on the string. That's the only reason I would see why you would want to take the clamp off at the base rather than on the string. So what's your opinion on that?
Okay, so this is my opinion. So I've heard that too. I've everybody I've ever talked to or had discussions with on it, they say that you release the bass first to keep from causing micro scratches on the string.
Yeah,
So
that's a
when you
that's a good
release, the
term.
string will pull just a little bit and cause a little
Right.
micro scratch. Uh, that said, I do release the clamp and let it fall.
Yeah, I
But
saw that.
on the machine, I guess I've done it enough. I kind of know which strings I can do that with and which strings I can't. Because like the last two mains, I usually go ahead and do the bass first because I know if I release the clamp, it's not going to fall.
Mm-hmm.
It never does.
Mm-hmm.
So those I'll do the bass first, then the clamp. But the rest of them, I'll do the clamp and let them fall. And I mean, this is my opinion. I've never talked to anybody with firsthand experience, and I have no firsthand experience with a micro scratch that caused the string to break. And I've never had a player, you know, again, I haven't strung for Federer or anything like that, but I've strung for top 100 players in the world. And I've never had any of them come back to me and say, hey, I've got a micro scratch on my string, but it's not playing very well. You know?
Right. And the question I would ask is, why did they develop
Yeah,
these
there had to be an
mechanisms?
engineer somewhere that came up with it's minor enough that you could use this.
Right, because they are designed to release when you drop, and that's what some people like. So why would you develop that if that wasn't the purpose in it, right?
Yeah, and
But
you know,
I think your take on it is pretty good. I mean, you know where you would possibly, if you're in a tight spot and you can feel that there's pressure there with that string,
yeah,
you
and it's
might
because of what you said.
want to.
Because the
Yeah,
rails really aren't curved on the Biardo very much. I mean, there's a little curve, but not a
yeah,
lot of curve. And those last two strings, I mean, no matter what you do, you can keep them as straight as you want to. But when you release the tension head, your clamp's going to come in and over just a little bit, and it'll never release true when you
yeah.
pull tension again.
Yeah, that's a good answer. I haven't really had a lot of people, maybe dialogue through this and figure out, why and when it would work. It was just kind of like they'd make the statement like, this is how you're supposed to do it, but then not really give any explanation as to why. So I think
Yeah.
that's a good, I think I think that answers it for me of why it might be done
Yeah.
that way. And,
Yeah.
the micro scratches, that's a good term. And so,
And I've heard a lot of stuff over the years of, and I understand a lot of guys have a lot more experience than I do on this stuff about, like we talked one time, cutting strings out. I cut strings out top to bottom, then across. And a lot of people, well, you can't do that. It's going to damage string. And I can see that easily damaging rackets that are the wooden rackets, the old aluminum rackets, the old metal rackets, but the modern rackets, nobody I've ever talked to has any firsthand experience where any of them have ever had damage.
And you're cutting them out very fast. It's not like you're taking your clippers and you're doing one string at a time and it's taking you 2 minutes to break the strings. You are cutting them out consistently fast. And because if you think about it, when people break string, where do they usually break it? At the top.
At the top.
Right. Well, I mean, 10 o'clock or 1 o'clock or whatever, but just at the top. So, if you're saying that by doing that, you're breaking this, you're damaging it up there. But, I can understand where if you have a weak spot in the racket, a lot of times a weak spot, not from the racket itself, but a weak spot from stress fractures. A lot of times those would be at 10 o'clock and 2 o'clock because that's where the head hits the pavement. Right.
Yeah.
And so that could potentially maybe throw that racket over the edge when you're cutting and you're releasing all that pressure at once at the top. I don't know, but there's
most of the rackets I see that get cracks in them, they'll usually be down in the throat.
Yeah,
because they just hit them so hard.
especially Yonex, right?
But I'll catch a few of them up at the top, but 99% of the time, if you watch it, I mean, those are the guys that are smacking rackets and digging them off the ground. And
right.
I've had them that didn't have, I mean, they'd eaten completely through the frame. They'd hit the ground so many times. So.
Yeah. So, that's, and the last thing is when you are pulling on your electronic pull machine, when you are pulling the string and you are waiting for it to completely stop, do you instantly at that point when it's completely stopped, you clamp it off, or do you let it sit and idle for a while before you clamp?
No, as soon as I see the green lights, I go.
Yeah.
And I know there's controversy over that too. Some
Yeah.
people, oh, you got to wait 10 seconds and let it straight, but no, I mean,
But if you wait 10 seconds, there's no consistency anymore
exactly,
because
exactly.
the strings are going to just be pulling and pulling and pulling, and then depending on what type of string you have, and you're not exactly waiting 10 seconds on every string, you know? So I think the idea of either go one way or the other, but think about it might be a good idea as soon as it's done pulling to clamp it for
Yeah,
for for better consistency.
exactly. 'Cause, I mean, the strings are going to relax no matter what. As soon as you're done stringing the
Yeah,
racket, they're going to relax.
yeah,
So it doesn't really, I mean, maybe it
right.
matters, but it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
So as long as you're putting out the same product every single time, that's what matters.
Yeah, because if you're really trying to stretch the string, use the double pull, the stretch mechanism on your machine. If
Yeah,
that's really what you if that's
yeah,
really what you
yeah,
want to
you
do,
stretch
right?
out.
Or pre-stretch the string,
Yeah.
manually, on a wall on a pole.
But yeah,
So
that's one of those kind of things that crack me up. So yeah, I hear that argument all the time about, well, you need to pull them, and especially with a crank. Oh, you need to pull them 2 or 3 times with a crank. But I hear people say, oh, you need to let it pull and let them rest. But then those same people will say, man, I can't wait till I can string under 20 minutes. Like, well, you're never going to string under 20 minutes if you're sitting there waiting 10, 15 seconds every time you pull a string.
yeah,
But
exactly.
all they want to do is get to 20 minutes.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. So, and if you are stringing at a quicker pace for whatever reason, if you're at a tournament or you're stringing large quantity and you got to get them done, you will be pretty much right as soon as it's where it needs to be. You're clamping on, moving on to the next string. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's just the fact of it and stuff. So, well, yeah, we've been going about 35 minutes, so I think we should probably call it a day. That was really fast. I
Yeah, it did. It seemed like it went real quick.
Yeah, that was. I mean, I think we covered a lot of stuff. I'm going to probably try to put a little narrative into the description for all those points, so that to make sure that everybody stays. Because I think there was some good tips toward the end, and yeah, thanks for your input, because I think a lot of those things were good discussions to have, because there's different perspectives on different approaches to why we do some of those things, and sometimes
Mhm.
we do them and we don't really know why. And sometimes I've learned a lot as far as like, wow, I've been doing that for the last whatever amount of years, and it might have not been the best way to do it. But you've got to be you've got to be teachable, and you've got
Yeah.
to be willing to change your ways and continue learning and stuff. And I think that's kind of what we're trying to do here, is to share that kind of information.
Yeah.
So
And,
thanks for your input on that.
yeah, and like if somebody's to watch all of my videos, I mean, you can tell where I've changed techniques over the years, just because I have learned other stuff. Or somebody's told me, hey, this is a little bit faster going this way, so I have changed technique over the years.
Yeah, and when you're teaching other people or you're trying to do demonstrations, many times I catch myself and go, "Oh, I got to do this video over because I didn't do that correctly," or like, "Wow, how did I let that slip?" That
Yeah.
or whatever, because you're trying to, and it helps you perfect your own abilities as well. So
Well, and you talking about the wax, like before the video we started, you're talking about doing the wax. My first cleaning video, I didn't use any oil or anything, but I noticed my rails started getting scratches in them. And so I started using, I watched one of the Wilson videos, and this is the oil that they were using. It's just bicycle chain oil, is all it is, a
hmm.
low friction oil. And I started using that, and I haven't gotten any more scratches on any of my rails, and my base clamps look good. And so if I
Yeah,
continued
it's
not
really.
using it, then,
Yeah, I mean, it is important to keep those rails as smooth as possible, because when you're stringing and you're moving those clamps and those bases around, they get
mhm.
stuck. And
Oh
it's just
yeah,
annoying when you're trying to string and it doesn't smoothly move over to where you want it to go. It's one of those annoyance things, I think, for
yeah,
me. So,
yeah. In fact, I know we need to go, but where my wife is playing at tonight, they've got a Alpha Ghost 2,
oh
and
yeah.
it's been cleaned exactly 3 times, and I've cleaned it all 3 times. So it gets cleaned about once every year and a half to 2 years.
Those are pretty decent machines from what
Yeah,
I've seen. I've never strung on one. I haven't seen it in person, but when you look at it, it's probably, when you look at a lot of these machines, they're coming out of the same factory. They
yeah,
kind of have the same sort of a look, but then the manufacturers, they even, they're not afraid to even mention that, but they just say, well, we put our own twist on it, or
yeah.
we
They
put.
have different tool tray
Yeah,
or something.
exactly, right. they use the base. They use the base mechanism, the base technologies, and then they add their own twist to it, right? They customize it. And so a lot of those, like I don't want to name any because I don't know for sure. Some of them are coming from the same, but yeah, that Alpha Ghost looks similar to some other machines in part, but it looks like a decent price point too.
Yeah, I'm saying that's why the Wilson came out with the Biardo L to try to get into that market.
That market, right? Because they're with the Biardo, they're at a whole higher level, and and then of course you step up one more level, and then you have the Yonex and the Babylon machines at a level above, right? So you got, I'm sure Wilson will pretty soon probably be coming out with, I would think maybe another iteration of stringing machines that that has that just about does it, strings the racket by itself. You never know.
Yeah.
For $10,000, you can have your machine just do it all for you.
Yeah,
that'd be nice. Well, I guess we better end it with that. So, Herb, thanks again for coming on, and I guess till next time. Yeah.
All right. Well,